Alright, here it is, my Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion review. So at first I wasn't sure if I was going to do a review for this game, but playing through it and enjoying it so much and having so much fun, I realized I had to do a review to properly convey just how good this remaster is and how much better it actually is compared to the original Crisis Core. So first, we're gonna start with my negatives, and full transparency here, I only have like 2 negatives. The rest are all positives. I am absolutely glowing right now because I'm having so much fun with this game. So to start with those negatives, the writing and the dialogue. So the writing and the dialogue are almost a one-to-one recreation of the original Crisis Core. It's the same script, but there are some occasions where the scenes have some different dialogue to them. There's only a few here and there, but obviously back in the day when they wrote Crisis Core, it was not great. A lot of the writing came off as stilted and incoherent at times, and there were so many scenes where characters were having conversations with one another, but it felt like they were having 2 separate conversations. It was really odd, and we still technically kind of have that with Reunion, so I'll get a little bit deeper into that. So I actually do think that the entire voice cast for this game are great, and there are some actors, Cody Christian, Britt Baron, Brianna White in particular, that really shine through and blow past the weird writing and voice direction and do a really damn good job with their line delivery. But my issue here is that they didn't take the time to go through and retool the script. Now, you can't change the full story. That has to stay the way it is because that would just cause a huge headache and everything would have to change. But the fact that they didn't go in and kind of look at that dialogue and clean it up and change it up to make it feel more natural or realistic is a really big missed opportunity in my opinion. And you look at something like Final Fantasy VII Remake, and that game has wonderful writing and voice direction, which allows the actors to really give 110% with their performance. And unfortunately in Crisis Core, they made the really weird decision to have the new actors come in and literally copy the same line delivery as the original cast, which makes 0 sense to me. This could have been an opportunity to have these new actors come in and get some new voice direction, change the voice direction to make things sound as best as they can, rather than just copying what was done in the past. And it is a bit ironic because the voice director on this game is one of the voice directors for 7 Remake. So the fact that he couldn't really change anything in this one is unfortunate.
I see. Then what should an angel fight for, Zack? What do angels dream of?
So let's get to those positives. Let's talk about the gameplay mechanics and quality of life improvements, because these alone completely changed my experience with Crisis Core to the point where I enjoyed nearly everything this go around that I didn't enjoy on my first initial playthrough of the original Crisis Core. So the first thing would be the UI. The UI is nearly identical to the UI from 7 Remake. It's beautiful, it's simple, it's clean, it's easy to navigate. Looking at all of your accessories and materia and equipment stuff is super simplistic. As for the materia, you can also do materia loadouts. So if there's a specific boss fight or a specific area where you know you're going to need certain materia, you can now create that loadout to have it ready whenever you need it. And to make battle much smoother and more fun, Zack now has access to shortcuts using the L1 button. With shortcuts, you can assign command materia and elemental materia to your face buttons, as well as R1 and R2, allowing you to seamlessly combo into spells or command attacks. Secondly, traversal. Running around as Zack is so much easier now. So in the original Crisis Core, Zack kind of had a light jog that he would do as he ran around, and that was pretty much his set speed. But in Reunion, Zack can now sprint around the map. which makes navigating and moving through areas so much easier, smoother, and quicker. And I do think that the animation they use for Zack's sprint is the same animation they use for Cloud in 7 Remake. The way they move, the way the Buster Sword sways back and forth is nearly identical, even down to the way they full-on stop their sprint. It's nearly identical between Zack and Cloud. Secondly, combat. Oh my god. Combat this go around is so much fun that I savor every single time I have a random encounter. So, in the original Crisis Core, all of Zack's attacks, his materia, his abilities, his items were all assigned to a hotbar, which you would have to navigate with, if I remember correctly, the shoulder buttons. And then you would select them based on what you had your cursor over, which created a lot of input delay for Zack's attacks. So you would have Zack swipe his sword, you would wait for him to finish the animation, and then you could follow up with the next sword strike. You could dodge to the sides, you could dodge backwards, but it felt so slow and sluggish and kind of pointless because you would just end up getting hit anyway. But in Reunion, it is so much better. It's faster, it's fluid, it's way more responsive. It's not quite on the level of 7 Remake, but it's pretty damn close. And what's nice is that Zack can actually cancel out of his attacks. He can cancel with a dodge, he can cancel with a guard, he can cancel with using materia. So he can attack and then you can cancel that into a spell, which is actually seamless, not only in the way you do it, but in the way Zack does it in game. They really took into account all of these different animations that they were going to need. And in the original, obviously you had that hotbar, but now Zack actually has a dedicated attack button, which allows for that faster, much more fluid and responsive combat, which makes all of the difference in the world. Secondly, they added a completely new battle mechanic later on in the game when you get the Buster Sword. It's the Buster Sword stance. So on PlayStation, by pressing Square and X, Zack enters this new stance, which almost kind of looks like Cloud's Punisher stance from 7 Remake. And when he's in that stance, he can't be stunned, he takes a little bit less damage, but he also delivers heavier, more critical strikes, which allow him to build up AP faster. And the more you use that stance, the more Zack will actually build up proficiency with the Buster Sword, allowing him to do more damage, allowing him to soak up more AP, which is really cool. They didn't have to even add this, but they did, and getting it in the game when you get it makes the combat even more fun and refreshing. They even added in a new battle bonus for the end of matches, so when you finish a fight, depending on how you finished it, you'll get a bonus reward to your stats. So if you finish a fight using magic, or an ability, or a summon, or a basic attack, or if you did a perfect guard during the battle, you're rewarded for that by having a certain percentage of your HP, your MP, or your AP restored, which can make getting through tough fights rewarding. You get your ass kicked, but you finish the fight in a cool way, and afterwards they're like, hey, here's some MP back. You did some cool stuff, we're gonna reward you for it. Now, getting to the missions, they're just as fun and easy to do as they were in the original game. However, with the ability to now sprint, you can, of course, take advantage of that old trick where if you hug the wall of the environment, you can avoid random battles, which in combination with the sprint allows you to complete these missions much faster. And of course, when you do the missions, you're rewarded not only with story and lore stuff, but also really great accessories. And I gotta mention, the mission system as well as the materia fusion system are so busted, just like they were in the original game, to the point where I was halfway through the game and I had such powerful spells that I could end fights with just one spell. And obviously with materia fusion, being able to fuse 2 different materia together, and then later on you get the ability to add an item into that fusion, allows you to create some really cool different combinations of materia, which made materia and item hunting so much more fun, because now I get a new spell and I think to myself, I wonder what I can make in materia fusion with this. And the combinations are endless. I'm talking Deathblade, There's like a death twister, a poison blade, a stop twister. There's dark variations on the spells like dark thunder, dark fire, all of this great stuff. And it was so much fun this time around with that simplified UI and the ability to move through missions faster with the quality of life improvements. Materia fusion became so much more interesting to me. And second to last, we're going to talk about those graphics, which aren't quite on the level of Final Fantasy VII Remake, but they do look damn good. All of the characters now have much more realistic looking character models, and what goes hand in hand with graphics are the animations. So as we covered in old Crisis Core videos, the bones of these characters are the exact same as their PSP counterparts, meaning the animations are all the same as the PSP game, which the animations in combination with these newer graphical styles can kind of look a little weird at times. I personally didn't really have an issue with it. Some people have described the movements as like super exaggerated anime style. I kind of liken it to, this is gonna sound really bad, but I liken it to a Muppet. The way a Muppet moves and is really exaggerative with their movements or their head bobbing or how they move their arms or react to things. It's almost kind of like that. And to be fair, it's honestly kind of charming at this point in time for me. Lastly, we will talk about the music, which is phenomenal. So the soundtrack for Crisis Core is actually kind of a mixture of old songs that have been remastered but not touched in terms of their arrangements, and then you have the other songs that have brand new arrangements made specifically for this game, and all of them sound good. All of those classic tracks that you would expect to hear, like some of the battle themes or some of the like the Price of Freedom themes, those are all there. But the rearranged themes sound so good, and a lot of them you'll hear running around the slums, or even just when you get into battle, they properly score and set the mood for your fights. Some of them have choirs in them and sound really epic, and this is a really great way to do it, where you have some of those original tracks still intact, but you also have new arrangements as well.
We'll meet again soon.
I'll hold you to that.
So in summation, what am I trying to say? What I'm saying is that Crisis Core Reunion is an absolute triumph. It looks fantastic. It plays 10 times better than the original. It sounds great, it looks great, and it's funny how all of these changes have completely changed the way I look at Crisis Core, and it completely changed my overall experience with the game. With the OG PSP version, after a while the combat got really grating because of that input delay and lack of really cool variety and cool combo stuff. That first half of the game in particular, back then, was really difficult to get through because it wasn't great. It wasn't until the second half of Crisis Core where things really picked up. However, this go around with Reunion, I enjoyed everything, and it's nuts how changing the gameplay, changing the graphics, updating the music, simplifying the UI, making all of these quality of life changes has completely improved my experience with Crisis Core. And having played through it and experienced all of these new changes, I can definitively say that Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is definitely much more than a remaster. So that was my Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion review. Now there are some things I did not touch upon, like the DMW system, primarily because I didn't want the video to be longer than it already is. However, if there is something I didn't touch upon in the video that you're curious about, leave a question in the comments down below and I will do my best to answer it for you. Also, feel free to leave your reviews in the comments down below as well. Did you love the game? Did you think it was okay, or were you disappointed? And before we end the video, we're going to look at the community poll that I posted a couple days ago, and I asked, with Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion officially released, what has been your favorite part of the remaster? 72% of you said the gameplay / quality of life improvements, 19% said the graphics, 6% said the remastered / rearranged music, and 3% said other. We also have a comment from Marius Boss, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. They said gameplay 100%, and I would agree. It's pretty nuts how changing the gameplay alone was enough to make this an even better, more satisfying experience. With that being said, that is the video. I am Curious Corduroy. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.